test, there's an option on there, like set up the state of the database.
I haven't tried it. No.
Haven't played with that one?
I haven't tried it. Any other questions, comments? This is going to take a little bit. The next VM is going to kick in. So, you know, the unit testing, you know, a lot of times I hear the developers, you know, this is my point of view, you know, that's another reason that I get to present a little more test, you know, why do we have to test, and I'm hearing this a lot, and I don't really have time to test. The developers seems like they're in a constant battle. Okay, we have this deadline, and I don't know how that deadline really comes through, honestly. You know, we just need to get the product out there, but it's not ready. And if it's not ready, it's not ready. And there's no doubt. I'm not sure how the really good way of relaying that, but this is the thing. You know, if you're not really happy with the code, if you haven't really tested the paths, why do you want to deploy it to some device, to some environment, and let the QA figure it out, and then they're going to tell you, hey, it doesn't work. So I'm not sure that's the thing. You know, I had this friction before. Have with other developers, okay, I don't have time to test. And my point is, you do have time to test. You should have time to test. It's just, it is your job to figure out how that code really works. It doesn't matter that it just compiles. Okay, it's done. Let's find out how it works. I would think that developers should be responsible to own that code, and just to show you, to prove you that it really works as it intended to. And you get to see a lot of different places, you know. One thing that got me in this example I like to walk you through is we were doing some validation. So I wrote the code before the other developers did. So I wrote the code, I had the class, I'm using enterprise library, the validation. So everything is set up. It's a couple of weeks later, something changed, and we don't have a continuous integration. It's going to drive that point that why do you have to have continuous integration? That the fact that, you know, I don't have time to test, and the code that I wrote broke because what I was depending on, the class that I was depending on is changed. And those are the things that having this regression test in your process is very valuable. And I don't want to have, I deploy the code and I know my validation doesn't work anymore, because it's very interesting, because it really, if you don't have a unit test, it just doesn't say anything. It's just silently just gets called, and just you think your validation works, really. You know, really no way that you know that your validation is not running. So it's really interesting, just silent errors or silent things, especially when you're relying on the thing like enterprise library, the validation toolkit. We're going to get those issues. I should leave it alone, I guess. Still loading up. So this is the VM. I actually started with this VM, but then I run to Coded UI. Coded UI is using a lot of different pieces, so I just downloaded the VHT and worked on that. It also requires a test manager, so there's a lot more involved to it that I could figure out by myself given the time frame. So I just picked up, and then you get to see the Visual Studio 2010 Professional here too. How many people are using Professional versus Premium? Professional? Premium Ultimate? So Team Foundation Server, Subversion, Git,
Just switched over.
Mercurial, CVS, Visual Source Safe. Okay, I'm sorry for it. So that's, I think you gotta, anybody is using not source console at all, anybody. Micro, yeah, it's just ridiculous, right? This is just something that
Probably wouldn't be here.
wouldn't be here, exactly. So this is a good thing, you know, the Visual Studio 2010, the splash screen. How many people look at this every day? You know, it's just, That's unbelievable slow just to start up. There's so many libraries that gets going on.
That's why you never close it.
They also listen for it. Close it too. They also need a, I think somebody posted on, I saw that, just, you need a closing splash screen too. I'm closing now. So it's pretty amazing. Just it gets bigger, but it's still a good IntelliSense is there and just a lot of different features. So I'm still waiting for it. Anybody using Dropbox? File share? Evernote? I put it in there just for Evernote is online. You can put your documents online. It's some kind of like a Google Docs, right? But it's just more, it has a client base rather than having you go to the website. So you can sync up your documents out there. That's okay. What else? So any other comments? And, how do you see unit testing? Do you guys think about it? Is it just additional work, or is it just it's nice to have, or is it just can I do without it? How many people not using a test framework? No test framework. Unit test, anything? I'm just thinking if I'm looking at the days that I wasn't doing it. It's so hard. It's just going back is really hard. Just not doing unit testing, not executing the code one piece at a time, especially when you're writing a big application, like an enterprise application. It's so hard to integrate each feature so different from the others. And in this solution, I'm going to show you I have two different MS tests and unit. I download NUnit. If you don't have TFS full-fledged and everything, I suggest looking at NUnit NUnit is the first one to come out for Visual Studio, and then it came from JUnit. I suggest you look at that. Let's fire that up too. If you download it, you get this little NUnit UI, and you can just run to your project, add your project to that solution. This is the application that I'm going to show you. So the more tests you have, the battery of tests, you have a little developer's going to have this nice little tool. Is anybody using ReSharper? Code Rush? Yeah, Code Rush? I'm not using it, but I use ReSharper. So ReSharper is a plugin for Visual Studio from JetBrains, and it allows you to do a lot more. So you get to do, it does a nice job of cleaning up your code. Your refactoring is easy, and I really like the fact that you have red-green refactor is built in right there. If you have multiple monitors, you can have the screen on another monitor, and then as you write code, you can execute each one. Go from there. So let's go open up the test tooling. And this is an ASP.NET MEC application. It has three projects in it. The first one is the MS test that I mentioned to you. I just wrote this up. Let's wrap it up from two different. I'm going to execute the model group. So model test, MS test, and unit. There are two of these. One of MS test is obviously from Microsoft. You see the references here, the tooling unit test framework. If you do the other guy, the NUnit, you're going to have NUnit reference here. Okay? It's pretty easy. So obviously your test is not going to be deployed. This is your web application that's going to be pushed out to the client or to the website. Then you're going to have your models. So MEC model view controller. Anybody using MEC? Quite a few. Is anybody using ASP.NET, just classic web forms? Any thoughts about that? Moving to MEC. Are you guys? I guess you don't have the call, but I'm just thinking you get the chance to look at it or anything. So it's a lot of thrust behind it right now. The nice thing is the testability is built into the application, and that's what I like about it. I've done 3-4 projects already with the MEC, ASP.NET MEC. Started with 1.0. Actually started with beta. Went to 1.0 now. It's Razor syntax, and 3.0. Vince here is working on that. So this is a little test method. Alright. Let's look at the model. So your model view controller, I have a customer model here, and this is just a property. Okay, and those are the validators, and they're available if you put the enterprise library validation. This is a real life example. not real life. I mean, it was inspired by real life. Okay, so we have the models. So we just have these. We decorate those attributes. Decorate the first name, last name. So you have a first name, last name, string length. So middle initial is only one character, right? So I just want to check these out. And then there's at the end, you just run this is valid on that model. So how do you do that? So you have these valid when you go out. So we have this model is getting populated by a call. We have a web service running out. It gets the customer model, and then it fills in the values and runs is valid. So how do I know is valid is working? So I don't want to go into details here, but is valid. So you just look at the validation results. You can iterate through a number of results. So you can just take each one of them. There's good examples out there. This is very, very simple. My point is, again, how do tests really help us? So MS test, and model test is gonna just execute this guy. So I'll just go compile this. So I believe the way it is set up right now, it does work. Or I should say, the test should pass. What did I do? That should not be here. Okay, run the test. Great. So far, so good. So I left this code, it's great and everything is working. So a couple of weeks later, maybe something happens. Some guy said we have a new hire. Maybe you just say, oh, I'm going to keep my model not public anymore. Because public is not good. No. You can't have public. I'm going to make that internal. And I'm going to add this. If you know the internal is visible to, does anybody know that? Yep. Maybe. So you just assign these attributes. You see, the idea is internals visible to. If you decorate a class with internals visible to, you can put these assembly instructions at the end, and you can execute your internal. So the idea is encapsulation. You don't want to show everything out there. But this is good. This was good for a while, but we had run into a problem. Maybe you guys have a solution to this. But so with doing it this way. So we put internal, obviously the class is going to be decorated by internal too. Now, I'm not going to do all this, but my point is just switch into this to internal. Alright, and I'm going to compile this again. Okay, run my test. Okay. So, and I didn't cache this. We didn't have a CI environment. We didn't have TeamCity running. We didn't have, I was just in the process of getting all this stuff. But that's my point. Just the things that you don't control, even though your code is working, some requirements change. You rely on somebody else's code. You rely on the customer model, and those things can come and bite you. So, any questions with the unit testing and unit MS test comments? Okay. So next up we have TeamCity. And how many people are using TeamCity? Anybody know TeamCity? No. Cruise Control developers. CruiseControl.net? Team Foundation server. And you are doing continuous builds, and codes get executed, right? And you deploy it to a location. So TeamCity is from JetBrains, as ReSharp is. Notes here. I'm losing myself. Oh, there it is. So the idea is we're going to have a continuous source write library. Just glad to hear that everybody's using a source control. We have a repository there, but we don't really stop right there. Now that you have a continuous repository, you don't know if that checked-in code is really working. And how do you do that? It's just files are missing. Somebody checked in a new CSS file, or HTML is broken, or something happened. And you need to automate the build. To automate the build is going to be done through TFS, to be done through Cruise Control. TeamCity is one. There are other tools out there, and that's how you can do that. You want to make your build self-testing. So you can, all these unit tests that you write, you can attach it to, you can execute it as you do your build. Right after you've done your build, You can also keep the build fast. Let's see how you need to have unit tests, and you need to deploy to a location to see anybody. Okay, here's the end product application, how that's going to work. You also want to automate the deployment. So TeamCity is a tool that allows you to do all this. Obviously, the direct code. No, it's not going to do that. TeamCity is available from JetBrains. Just going to show you a demo. It's very straightforward to use. Once you install it, the personal edition is available. So I installed this in this box. It's a local host. It has its own some kind of Tomcat open source server, web server. And you can put it on any port that you want. I put it on 1717. And I actually added this project right now to this TeamCity. So what we have here is go to administration. In the administration, you have, the way it works is it's pretty straightforward, but let's just go walk through it quick. You have to, it assumes that you have a visual source control, what is that? Version control system. Version control system is available to you. So you need to add up your version control system. You need to have a build agent. Your build agent's going to be your build agent. You can have up to 20 build. You can have up to 20 builds. So each one is considered a build for each project you're going to build. In the free version is going to give you up to 20 builds. Agent is so the way it works is agents could be pushed into different desktops. Let's say you have a location here in Minneapolis, another location in Fargo. You can have another server box out there and let the local code compile there, and that you can add more agents. So the agent's going to go and push the interface to here, so one console to manage all of that. You get to see your build history. You can set up your build users and groups. The free version is not going to connect to your LDAP or Active Directory, so you have to buy the full version, which I believe is about $2,000 right now. If you have a big environment, it could be worth doing that. But if you're only like 10, 20 developers, I would say go with just the personal edition. So let's look at this. So there's a build. This is already created. Just wanted to show the general settings. You have another nice thing I like about it, even though it's a web application, you have a nice configuration steps. It just walks you through how your build is working in the configuration steps. So I just have to give it a name, build configuration. Your build counter, you can reset the counter so people can get the artifacts from your application. You can create different rules. And by the way, they have a really nice wiki. TeamCity has a very nice wiki. A lot of user groups, a lot of people are using it, so you get a lot of help too. And the customer support is pretty good. My experience has been, at least. Version control settings. This is also nice. It supports. It doesn't just work on TFS or Visual Source Safe. It does work on multiple. So we're gonna look at. There's a wrong name here. It does work with different. So right now we are looking at the Team Foundation server where you have ClearCase. Is anybody using ClearCase? CVS, Kit, Perforce, Star Team, Visual Source Safe. And it hooks up to your TFS settings. As you do that, you have your application, so obviously you go to your TFS and get that name. You can test your connection, so that's your version control. Once you finish with that step, go to the next one. So build steps. So in this case, I'm using the Visual Studio just to keep it simple solution, but I suggest if you're in a production, definitely check out, I forgot the name, just remember it now. MS Build or NANT, yes, thank you, NANT. NANT is very good, right? So it does a lot of publications and everything, so I would suggest look at that. Very flexible command line. It does use Ruby's Rick. The FXCop, you can also put FXCop if you want to run your code analysis tools against your solution, you can do that. So there's a bunch of things available here, right? You change your solution, version and configuration. You go back to build steps. And the last one is the MS test. Yeah, we are just running the test here. I'm using the MS test as a demo, but there's the same things you can do, different test protocols that you can use, frameworks you can use. You can run if you have a coverage tool, you can add that in here. .cover is available. Caesar, you were making a comment earlier. .cover, so you can run that here as well. So I think it's very nice, very integrated, web-friendly support interface. Anybody can get to it. You need to create local users if you're not going to use LDAP or Active Directory. Finally, I don't really use these advanced dependencies. You can look at the other dependencies. You can fail your project, you fail your build if you have another, let's say your build is connected to another project, another solution. You can add dependencies. I haven't used these advanced ones, but you can create these as well. Properties and environment variables, this is useful if you have your build is calling for certain parameters to be passed in and things like that. You can also adjust these in here. So agent requirements. One of the things I want to caution you is you don't want your build server to have all the Visual Studio tools loaded. You just need the SDK. So anything that you're working on, I see a lot of people are doing just loading everything. The whole Visual Studio is loaded on the build server. You don't need that. You just need your simple SDK. Just get the basics done on that. It's just going to be very minimum in the system. So I really exchange a lot of developers. I need this third party. The way you can do that is I'll show you in the lib, in my TFS here. Team. So this is what I do. I don't know how to practice it, but this has been working for me. I've been just added a lib directory. I put all my third-party references to that and add it into the project. So that way this gets checked out. When the team city gets in, it's going to look up these places. If you may run into some GAC issues maybe, but you can still get by it. Just don't just slap the, I guess my point is just don't slap the full-fledged Visual Studio into your build server. So build server, source control, I would keep them separate.
Question. If you're using MS test, how do you put it on a build server? How do you isolate those DLLs that are needed for MS test?
So MS test, it's going to be part of the SDK. If you don't have it, it will come in. You can install that as well. It's going to be into the .NET Framework 2.0 or whatever. It's going to be in that directory. And TeamCity knows that. TeamCity is going to call that directly. So just getting the SDK into the build server, good question, is going to get into that and then call these out. I had one thing that, well, that was a TFS problem. So TFS sounds, I don't know, if a team frustration server. But so yeah, I saw this comment. TFS is a user group. They meet once a week at a bar. So I don't know, but it's good. It's good to. I think tools are getting better. I don't want to give a lot of heat, but just the fact that TeamCity supports multiple platforms. Now, how many people are just sold .NET shops here? Combined shops, Java. So it's just I've been in places with a lot of Java development. We put it in one place. So TeamCity was really useful for us to get going and just adding all these different tools. Okay, I think I am almost done here. Any questions? So go check it out. It's really free. It really won't take you. The installation is very painless. Doesn't have a lot of dependencies. What's going to run into is it's a little frustrating. Even the simple projects, I have to go and look it up. Once you get these setups done, you will get these builds run pretty fast. You can run your build here. I'm just going to run it right now manually. You can hook it up to listen to your team foundation, to your source control. It will just go, and if anybody checks in code, there's a quiet time. You can adjust that time. So you don't want to run every check-in, right? You want maybe 10 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever you decide to. But it's going to go and run. You see your results here. It's running the tests. It's going to do, oh yeah, I haven't talked about that. It's going to go and run these. So what it does is it goes to connects to the team foundation, so your source control. It's going to grab there's a TeamCity directory. Once you install it, it's going to check those out to build agent work. So it's going to check to these locations. You see, it just already checked this out. So your solution, all your artifacts, going to come down here. It gets compiled here. Then they get shoved in once your finished product, finished results, going to get shoved into another directory. If I can find that. Under work. No. Okay. I may not get you right now, but it does get into a different directory, just to let you know. So you have full control over that. You can zip those artifacts and deploy it to a location, a web server, or send it to a central location so that people can get at it. So that's something to think about. This is going to run all your tests. If your tests fail, you get to see. If the test is failed, you can take blame. You can shift blame. Okay, you broke this. Now it's your turn to fix it. It's really nice to have. You were asking a question? No. So it's really nice. Did you get a question? Sorry, I just. Yes.
Does it have deployment?
Yes. Yeah. It will just zip it up. Yes, there's deploy. Mostly command line. That's what I suggested looking at NAND. It does a bunch of XML based, so it's very nice in that sense. It's pretty powerful. Okay, let's wrap it up. You can just from the website then, it's free, up to 20 user accounts, 20 configurations. You get to have 3 agents. Unlimited if you go to enterprise, that's the cost for now. If you need to buy agents, those are license details. Just check it out. It's in JetBrains for TeamCity. You get that. These are my references that I use this. Really suggest this book about growing object-oriented. It actually talks about JUnit, but Java framework, but it really applies to, especially for SpecFlow, Cucumber. If you're going to look at these, it's all a really good book that I've been reading. Continuous integration, the best practices. A lot of ideas come from there. Next one we have for Visual Studio 2010, and this is an overview book. It does not going to go into depth as much, but it just shows you it does the UML. I didn't talk about the architecture edition. Anybody using that UML tools? Architecture, available in 2010. So if you're doing your website architecture, it's really nice to have if you have the ultimate, really, you don't need to write Visio documents someplace else. Look at that UML project type now available in Ultimate. Now, you can't get it on Premium, unfortunately, but it is very nice. So if your project changes and everything is really tied to your code, I really like that. I've been using that for a while. So yeah, that's oversight book. If you're in a QA group, your QA guys are using, if you want to learn more about in-depth Visual Studio 2010 testing, this is a good book to look at. Continuous integration in .NET just came out. I think it was in Leap. It just came out. Some ideas on beautiful testing. There's a bunch of essays here. Okay, in conclusion, so our goal is to ship best buggy, rigid, not rigid, best buggy, rigid software. TDD and BDD are pretty good tools. And finally, if you're just in the .NET shop, I suggest you look elsewhere too, because there's ideas coming out from all over the places, right? We have Visual Studio 2010 and great ideas with various kind of test mechanisms. Just take your time and learn. You don't have to. You don't build everything on a day. Just look at other platforms of ideas. Play with it. Just create a bunch of prototypes. Not too hard. The final point is I'm glad to hear everybody using some continuous integration. It's not really nice to have. It's just you gotta have it, right? If you're really curious about that. And finally, with all everybody's here. Thanks for coming. Thanks for the sponsor.